Now, going to the next speaker, and we're starting getting a little bit more into the content of the Sustainability Forum in terms of finance, investments. We're very lucky to have the chair of the Hellenic Capital Markets Commission, Vassiliki Lazarakou. Vassiliki is going to talk about the latest regulatory developments in the industry of environmental, social, and governance issues, the ESG issues. We all know that there's been a series of regulations across the European Union, which I'm also going to briefly present during my speech later on. And from this very important position, Vassiliki now will lead a capital market transformation. And this has an impact on the supervising firms that belong to the supervision framework of the Capital Markets Commission. And we're very much interested in hearing from Vassiliki how the new regulatory framework will look like, not only in very few months, but has already started developing. Vassiliki is here with us at the ends of Athens Plaza, and she's going to be our first speaker live broadcasting for this event. Vassiliki, the physical floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Spanos. Thank you, Michael, for the invitation to the Sustainability Forum and for your kind words. I'm going to, as a regulator, as the chair of the Commission, I'm going to try to brief everybody on the regulatory developments that have to do with this important issue, with ESG. So, first of all, I have to say that the Commission, the Hellenic Capital Market Commission, is very active in all the EU deliberations regarding this issue, together with the other European national authorities, with the other capital markets regulators. We participate in the preparation of the new regulatory framework for ESG matters at the EU and at the ESMA level. ESMA is the global capital market regulator. So both at EU and ESMA level, we participate very, very actively, and we are endorsing the strategy proposed by ESMA on this very important issue. So let me start by saying which are these regulatory developments. So I will mention the most important developments that lead towards a uniform and comprehensive ESG disclosure standards regime as a response to a problem which is, by definition, global. So the new regimes aims at three things: to eliminate greenwashing practices, to encourage a more responsible approach to business, and to a great extent rationalize the dispersed private standard-setting initiatives that have prevailed until today. So let's see which are the key recent regulatory priorities. So these are the following: the legal framework for transparency obligations to be achieved through regulation on sustainability-related disclosures in the financial services sector. If you know, this is the so-called disclosure regulation, the SFDR, we speak in the capital markets with the acronyms all the time. So which sets out the environmental, social, and governance disclosure requirements for a broad range of financial market participants, financial advisors, and financial products. So the SFDR confers on the three European authorities, the EBA, which is the European Banking Authority, the EIOPA, the European Insurance and Occupational Pensions Authority, and ESMA, the European Securities Market Authority, the mandate to deliver through the Joint Committee mandatory regulatory technical standards, the RTSs, as well as regulatory technical standards, while there is also an optional empowerment to develop an implementation technical standards. And I have to tell you, because I also participate in this committee, at the Joint Committee, as a chair of another Joint Committee on Securitizations, there is a lot of work that is being done by the Joint Committee regarding the RTSs. So there is really very important development in this respect. Now, the second piece of legislation on which there is a regulatory priority is with regard to the low bar, which the regulation of 2089, which is of 2019, as regards low carbon benchmarks and positive carbon impact benchmarks, which will provide investors with better information on the carbon footprint on their investments. The recently issued European Framework on the Taxonomy for Sustainable Activities establishes the conditions to gradually create a unified classification system on what can be considered an environmentally sustainable economic activity. The review of the issuer's non-financial reporting directive disclosures, direct supervision, because ESMA is embodying references to ESG factors within the legal frameworks underpinning the entities under each direct supervision, like the credit rating agencies and others. Identification, what we're also doing now is identification of trends and market changes, as well as potential risks related to sustainable finance. And finally, enhanced work towards supervisory convergence in the ESG matters within the remit of all the regulators. So, the current regulatory discussion can be found, of course, in the EU Commission's renewed sustainable finance strategy, which was open until recently for consultation. We, as the regulator of the Capital Market Commission, the Hellenic Capital Market Commission, participated through the relevant ESMA response, through the response that ESMA gave, stressing that a further regulatory widening of the ESG domain is warranted, for example, through the elaboration of new definitions on social sustainability, as well as on other governance issues for all market participants. So let's see now which are the main regulatory challenges. The main challenges are the following: the emergency posed by the COVID-19 crisis and its multiplex repercussions call for a comprehensive definition of ESG aspects. So we need to define the ESG aspects. Now, ESG information and data availability and collection procedures. For instance, a group of financial services trade associations has called for the creation of a centralized public register for sustainability data in the EU to facilitate financial market participants' access to comparable and reliable sustainability data in order to comply with regulatory requirements. So it's very important to see how the information and how we're going to have collection procedures and data availability. Now, enhancing ESG awareness and facilitate ESG transition for all market participants. ESG awareness is something very important, and here in Greece we have put this well as a priority to see how we're going to make more financial participants aware of this important issue. Another issue which is a challenge is the promotion of standardization and ESG labeling issues. How we can have standardized ESG labels. Now, a focus on a proportional approach regarding SMEs, the medium size, the small medium-sized entities. A framework for innovative products, green securitizations, including the European Green Bond Standard. Green bond, I have to say that green bond issuance has more than tripled since 2015. So green bond is again a priority and a challenge. Maintaining the international outreach, and finally, the overall shift to long-term oriented investment decisions. So these are all the challenges. Now, with respect to the ESG impact on the listed firms, I would like to refer to a very informative study that has been published by ESMA, the capital market regulator, on undue short-term pressures in securities markets last December. There were important recommendations to the European Commission for action, which stressed to the following as well. In Greece, as of today, the Athens Exchange has published the ESG guide on its website, and it's very useful if you can reach and find out what exactly the guide says. And also at the end of 2019, the National Plan for Energy and Climate has been published on the official journal. So even though there is still much to be done for an establishment of an overall ESG approach, I trust that the range of the new regulatory developments will contribute, first, to the reduction of uncertainty about what constitutes a sustainable environment, which is very important, and second, initiate subsequently a common ESG responsible culture for all market participants. The goal is to try to proceed to a culture, to a uniform culture for all market participants regarding what is ESG and how beneficial that would be for the economy in general. So the next day is ESG, and we are here to try to see how we can provide guidance as to this respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vassiliki. The regulatory developments are very rapid, and I don't know how, especially Greek companies, but also other companies in the European Union will have a chance to be ready for the new developments. There's a question for you from the audience. What would be the most pressing need for the capital market participants to start achieving ESG integration? For example, a reporting framework, a green bond framework, a practical guideline for risk management, something else? The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development is asking this question. And we've seen some guidance, as you said, from the stock market, but what's the most pressing need now for the capital market participants?
For me, it would be very simple. I would say the reporting regime, they have to see how this will take place in the next period. So for me, the disclosure regime is the most pressing, and this is something that they have to check more. First, and second, of course, the culture. The whole culture has to be, we have to, let's say, introduce in our mentality the ESG factors, because until now, I think that has not been, there was not so much, let's say, awareness of what is ESG. So for us as regulators, and for the stock exchange started already, they have to make sure, we all have to make sure that people are more aware, companies are more aware of what ESG is about. And therefore, we need to stress right now on this issue. And the companies, I believe, they need to make sure that they try to embrace all these ESG factors in order to have more attractive, in order to become more attractive as investments. Because as far as we have seen in the larger scale, that the ESG funds, for example, or the ESG companies are those that are preferred by the investors, especially by the international investors. So I would urge the companies to start becoming more aware of what ESG is about, and then try to see how they can enhance their disclosures on these issues.
So would you be in favor of mandatory ESG reporting for all listed firms?
Okay, there are also the directives and the regulations are already there, so that is going to happen through those regulations. So I cannot comment anything on that. This will happen. I mean, yes, of course.
Okay, okay. Vassiliki, thank you very much for coming and presenting live for this conference. We appreciate your support and your enthusiasm in driving sustainable finance in Greece.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
All the best to your work.
Thank you.